Hello everybody, wasabi as the cool kids would say. Today I'm here to introduce Debra Baker, and just to make this clear, her old last name was Busmeyer, so Debra Busmeyer Baker, and my name is Lacey Marie Baker, here to introduce her for her video. She specifically told me, after all these takes, to demonstrate pretzel breathing sitting down. We've had 10 takes, so we're gonna do it sitting down this time. So you're going to take your two hands, you have two of them, I'm pretty sure, and cross them. Cross your two hands, connect them, twist your legs, tighten up, breathe in, let it out, untighten all of your muscles. And that's pretzel breathing. Thank you.
Hi, as my granddaughter mentioned, my name is Debra Baker, and I would like to welcome you to my meditation today. Yeah. So we are continuing our series on getting to know yourself, and today we're going to look at our emotions. So let's get started. As usual, let's begin with our 3 nice deep breaths, and I'm hoping that perhaps you can hear the soft music in the background. And take another deep breath all the way down to your tailbone. Hold it for a second and then let it go. And now take the deepest breath you've taken all day. Hold it for a second and let it go. And if you want to try Lacey's pretzel breathing, we were doing some practice meditations. She did really, it was a spoof on my meditations earlier, and I might post it on the channel just for fun. But she demonstrated that pretzel breathing that she learned in school, and it really makes a lot of sense to kind of tighten everything up from your toes all the way to your fingertips, to your neck, your shoulders. Just kind of tighten your whole body up. And then take a breath into that tightness, hold it for a second, and then as you release your breath, release all of your muscles. And notice how wonderful that feels. The things you learn from a 9-year-old. And so as you just relax your body fully, I invite you to think about how you feel. We've been talking all year about our emotions, and we've been talking all year about knowing ourselves. And one of the things that we looked at our senses, and we just looked at different ways that we find joy. I think we are so concerned about knowing everybody else and pleasing everybody else, at least a lot of us are, that there probably are parts of ourselves that we don't know. And so last week when we talked about senses, I said, we had the sense of feel or touch, but there's also that all of those emotional senses. And if you've read my book, Amazing Intuition, you've read a little bit about this. So in our heads, necks, and shoulders, so think about from your shoulders all the way up to the top of your head, that's where we store anger. So first I invite you to just breathe into your shoulders and feel them sinking down your neck. Breathe into your atlas, that last vertebrae where your spinal column meets your skull. And let's check in. How are you or are you feeling angry? And I think you may not be feeling angry or frustrated or stressed so much in this moment. I hope you're not, because you're meditating. But I think we stuff our emotions away. We tuck them away when it's inconvenient to have them at the moment. And some of us, myself included, are darn near experts at it. And so the problem with that is it's very helpful sometimes if you're in the grocery store and something upsets you to not necessarily react to it. At the same time, what do you do with that? Because I heard someone recently say, I act like it's not a big deal, and every day that it passes I tell myself, well, that's gone, and it's not a big deal anymore. But our bodies remember, and our hearts and our souls remember. So I invite you to just give yourself permission now to see if anything in the past day, week, month is locked away. Is your jaw tight? Has your jaw been tight? Something frustrating you? I was actually sick this week with some kind of flu or virus, and it was frustrating. And I didn't think about it at the moment, but frustration is just a polite word for anger. And I think I probably was feeling a bit of anger about it because I had things to do, and I did not have time to be sick. Or perhaps someone is expecting something of you that's not reasonable, or is just not in your wheelhouse, or not what you want to do. I used to have this feeling when I was employed by someone else that, as an employee, it was my job to kind of do what the boss asked. And I can now see that speaking up for myself would have been a really healthy choice in lots of situations. So maybe there's unspoken words. Maybe you saw or can see the truth about a situation that you can't talk about. So let's breathe into that. Or maybe you feel cut off from the spirit, from yourself. Let's just breathe into that and allow your infinite self that is moving in, through, and as you to release that. And now let's move down. I know we could probably spend an entire meditation on each of the emotions I'm going to discuss today, but this is just a short meditation. So let's move down into your heart space, your chest, upper back, around your collarbone, your shoulder blades. Breathe into your heart. Allow your infinite soul to breathe into your heart. And notice if there's any sadness. For those of us who have lost someone that is dear to us, sometimes that sadness just sneaks in. You think of somebody that you love, and suddenly you're missing them acutely when, a moment before you weren't even thinking about them. Or it could be sadness about a current situation, a separation from someone you love, either spiritually, emotionally, or physically. Let's breathe into that. And focus instead on the love that our hearts hold. That you are a loving, beautiful, loving soul. Precious, precious, precious. And know that the infinite, the one presence and the one power is moving in, through, and as you. So I invite you for a moment to imagine that you have the wings of an angel. And in this moment, you unfurl them, you spread your wings. And each of those wings creates a sense of freedom and a lightness that fills your heart up with a lightness and a joy. Just breathe into it. And if you do have some heaviness there, just acknowledge it. Tell that inner you, maybe your inner child, or just, part of you that doesn't want the world to see. Tell that part of you that it's okay, that you love him or her, that you are a precious, precious soul, and you don't owe anybody any explanations for your personal feelings and opinions, because you are a unique expression of the infinite, and we wouldn't want it any other way. So now move down a little bit in your focus in your body. Breathe into your belly. And in our guts is where we hold fear. And also where we hold courage. There's a yin and a yang, two sides of every coin. And so the side that trips us up is the fear. And the side that keeps us moving is courage, and they are not mutually exclusive. So you can be feeling brave and still feeling afraid. You can be brave enough to take that next step even though your knees are shaking. And I invite you to take a moment to applaud yourself, to congratulate yourself on all the many times when you had those difficult conversations, when you spoke your truth, when you reached out to someone when you weren't sure what the response was going to be. Each of the times when you were feeling afraid and you moved forward anyway. They say each time you do that it gets easier, and I'm not so sure. Sometimes the stakes are higher and it doesn't feel any easier, and I invite you just to remember that you are whole and perfect exactly as you are, and you've got this. You and God moving in through and as you. You've got this. You are God moving in through and as you. And so the last emotion we want to look at today is shame. And to me there are two profoundly different levels of shame. There's the surface shame that, we did something, we spoke out of turn, we, did something kind of at the spur of the moment, and we feel this kind of immediate shame. And when we admit that, and we say, I did that and I feel ashamed, that shame, as soon as we say, I feel ashamed, it releases. And I invite you to practice that, even if it's just with yourself, to admit, you know what, I feel ashamed of that behavior. And you are not shameful, but you may be feeling ashamed of something. And then there's that deep, deep shame that some of us were brought up with. The system in which I was raised was based on guilt and shame. And that was what was used to control our behavior. And my mother's parenting technique was withdrawal of affection and shame. And those things are little pockets that are really deep inside me. And so I invite you to create a safe place in your heart and in your shame. We usually hold in the pelvis and the extremities, but also just in your mind, to hold a safe place so that if shame just does show up, that you can hold that little child tightly and say, it's okay. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You were being a natural human being. You were a child, or you were an adolescent, or even you were a young adult, or maybe even last year. But holding on to shame is debilitating. It doesn't serve any good purpose for any of us. So I invite you right here and right now to do two things: to give yourself permission to be aware of your shame, and to give your shame permission to release. And I apologize that I didn't give us any periods of silence. I'm a little off my game today with my granddaughter here, and actually having a little trouble following the clock too, so. But I'm not feeling ashamed of it. I'm recognizing that I'm a human being just like we all are, huh? And we love ourselves exactly as we are, regardless of whether or not we reach the level that we hope to reach that day, or we reach the goal or the intention. I hope that your intention for this year is to be kind to yourself. As you get to know more and more about yourself, to embrace it. And to accept yourself exactly as you are. Because you are whole and perfect exactly as you are. And continue that nice deep breathing. And I would love to receive some feedback from you if, as far as the music goes, if you could hear it, if it was helpful or if it was distracting, and I would be more than happy to give you the link, and if I can figure out how, I'll put it on my YouTube channel. And let's take another nice deep breath. And really what this meditation has been about is to be emotionally safe with yourself. To make it safe in your heart and mind for you to have whatever emotions you're having. For you to be yourself, because you are precious exactly as you are. And that is you and the infinite presence moving in, through, and as you. So the infinite presence moving in, through, and as me honors and recognizes and sends infinite unconditional love to you and the infinite presence moving in, through, and as you. Namaste.